You're standing in an elevator, and it hasn't even started moving yet, and your thumb is already swiping. A red light turns green in 4 seconds, and somehow it felt like 40. Somewhere between waiting for a page to load and waiting for anything at all, patience turned into an itch you scratch instead of a thing you have. You've probably heard the explanation for this. Apps are designed to hijack your attention, so of course you can't sit still. That's not wrong exactly, it's just not the whole story, and it skips the more interesting question. What if the problem isn't the app at all, but the fact that your brain never had to wait for anything until very recently? In a moment, you'll meet someone who could crouch motionless for hours without once feeling what you feel after 15 seconds of silence, and the exact discipline running underneath that stillness. And by the end, you'll see that the same system that trained your brain to crave constant novelty can be trained back the other way. So hold that thought and picture this. Picture a tracker crouched at the edge of a dry riverbed, eyes fixed on a print in the sand. Nothing happens for an hour, then nothing happens for another. He doesn't check anything. There's nothing to check. The animal will move when it moves, and his entire body is built to simply wait it out. That crouch, that stillness, was not a special skill reserved for a few gifted hunters. It was baseline. It was Tuesday. And it tells you something crucial about the brain you're carrying around right now. Here's the part that gets missed in every "apps are addictive" explanation. Your attention system doesn't have a fixed setting called focus. It has a baseline that calibrates to whatever rate of novelty surrounds it. Feed it something new every few seconds, and it recalibrates to expect something new every few seconds. Feed it nothing for hours, and it recalibrates to that too. Boredom isn't a flaw in the machine, it's the machine reporting, accurately, on the environment you've been feeding it. Accounts of tracking among groups like the San of the Kalahari describe something striking. The waiting isn't dead time, it's the work. Descriptions of persistence hunting point to trackers reading subtle signs, a bent blade of grass, a slightly deeper print, over hours, sometimes days, with almost no external reward along the way. No ping, no little dopamine tick every 10 seconds. Just sustained attention on faint, slow-arriving information. That is a wildly different attentional diet than the one your thumb is currently on. Now compare that to your feed. A modern app can deliver a new face, a new joke, a new outrage every 2 or 3 seconds, forever. Your ancestors' environment simply couldn't do that. Novelty was rationed by nature itself, a footprint, a change in wind, a bird's call. The brain that evolved inside that scarcity got remarkably good at waiting productively. It never had to build tolerance for stimulus that never stopped, because stimulus that never stopped didn't exist yet. So when 15 seconds of silence feels unbearable now, that's not weakness. That's a very literal mismatch between the pace your attention was calibrated for and the pace it's currently being fed. Which raises an honest question worth sitting with for a second. When was the last time you actually waited for something with nothing to check in the meantime? Not counting a red light. A real stretch of empty time. If you can remember it, say so in the comments. It might be rarer than you think. Foraging life wasn't just waiting though. It filled the gaps between events with slow, hands-busy tasks. Weaving, napping stone, mending cordage. Activities with no urgency and no immediate reward, done while attention stayed loosely open to the world around it. Ethnographers studying present-day foraging and pastoral communities have repeatedly described this pattern. Long stretches of low-stimulation activity, interrupted occasionally by something that actually mattered. That rhythm, low hum most of the time, sharp attention when it counted, is closer to your ancestors' natural attentional pace than anything a feed offers. And this is where the common story gets it backwards. The usual narrative says boredom is the enemy, something to be eliminated with the next scroll. But to your ancestors, boredom wasn't an enemy at all. It was the resting state attention returned to between real signals. It was functional. Herders watching flocks, weavers threading baskets, trackers holding a line for hours. Their nervous systems treated low stimulation as normal, not as a problem demanding an immediate fix. Here's the turn worth sitting with. Your brain hasn't lost the capacity for that slower rhythm. It's just been trained, recently and thoroughly, to expect the opposite. Recalibration runs both directions. The same system that adapted to constant novelty in a matter of weeks can adapt back toward tolerating stillness. Not instantly, and not by force of will alone, but through the same mechanism that got it here. Repeated exposure to slower rates of stimulation, over and over, until slow stops feeling unbearable. That's a very different story than your attention is broken. It means the itch you feel in a quiet moment is information, not failure. A live readout of what your nervous system has been trained on lately. Your ancestors didn't have willpower that modern people lack. They had an environment that trained patience into them by default, the way yours currently trains restlessness into you by default. So next time a quiet minute feels unbearably long, you might notice it instead of immediately fixing it. Not as a cure, not as a hack, just as a small, honest signal from a very old system telling you exactly what pace it's been living at. What would you notice if you let one quiet minute actually finish? If you actually try it, drop a line in the comments about what showed up. Even one sentence is plenty.